Okay, so I needed to move this next part of activity to another video. So module 3, we are still in lesson 1. We're in activity 2. This is page 408. So it gets a little bit more complicated here, so I'm going to try to explain this the best I can on video. So if you're confused, come talk to me in class and we'll work through this. The multiplication property of equality states that if two values a and b are equal, when you multiply each by the same value c, the products are equal. The division property of equality states that when you divide equal values a and b by the same value c, the quotients are equal. The division property of equality is true only if c is not equal to 0. Can't divide by 0. So if a equals b, then a times c is the same as b times c. And same with division. If a equals b and c is not 0, then a divided by c is the same as b divided by c. So let's consider the equation x equals 5 represented on the double number line. Use the property of equality stated to write at least 3 equations to the same solution. Represent each equation on the double number line. All right, let's see if we can do this and I can actually keep it in the frame. Okay, so if we have x equals 5, so this is telling us if these are the same, if this was like our a and our b, and we multiply them both by the same value, like by a c, so let's say we multiply them both by 2, then we would get 2x equals 10. So that might be, oh, I want a dot and a dot and a barbell. So 2x and 10. Okay. Then we might have, if we have the x equals 5, we might say let's multiply 3 by each of those. So we would have 3x equals 15. So there's x, 2x, maybe 3x, and 15 is here. And then let's do one more. X equals 5. Let's do 4 times each of those. So 4x equals 20. That might be here. Okay, excellent. So now it says the division property of equality. So this one might be a little bit trickier. So let's see what we can do here. So if we have x equals 5, and let's say we divide each of those by 2. Divided by 2, divided by 2. Well, x over 2 is really like 1/2 x, because remember there's a coefficient of 1 there. So half of x equals 5 halves is 2.5. So if this is x, half of x might be like right here. 1/2 x, and that's going to equal 2.5. Okay, so maybe we have the x equals 5, and now let's say maybe we divide it by 4. Okay, so that's really like a 1, so it's 1/4 of x equals 5/4, which is 1.25. So basically it's half of the half, so it'd be about the same distance away. So we have 1/4 x equals 1.25. And then I probably didn't space it out correctly. That's okay. It doesn't have to be perfect, guys. So let's zoom out just a little bit. We have x equals 5. Let's divide both by 5 this time. So that would be 1/5 x equals 5 over 5 is 1. So 1 and 1/5 x. So that's how that works with division. Okay, moving on. This next page, 409, is rather complicated. Honestly, I think it's a little bit too complicated for 6th grade, but we'll give it a shot here. Consider the equation 1/2 x equals 10 represented on the double number line. Use each of the properties stated and 3 different ones. Same thing. So the multiplication property. So we have 1/2 x equals 10. So we're going to do the same thing. Let's multiply it by 2. So we would get 2 times 1/2 is 1 whole. So it's x equals 10 times 2 is 20. So that might put our x here, a 20 here. And then if we have 1/2 x equals 10, and let's say we multiply them both by 4. 4 times 1/2. Remember, multiply straight across. 4 times 1 is 4. 1 times 2 is 2. So it's 4 over 2. So that's the same as 2x equals 10 times 4, 40. And that makes sense, right? If x is 20, 2x would in fact be 40. Okay, so let's do 1/2 x equals 10. Let's do a times 6 this time. So half of 6, 6 times 1/2 is 3, because it's 6 over 1 times 1 over 2. So 6 over 2. 6 divided by 2 is 3, so 3x equals 60. And again, that makes sense with our pattern here. 1x is 20, 2x is 40, 1x, 2x is 3x, 20 and 40 is the 60. Okay, so now for division. Okay, so let's say we're starting with the 1/2 x equals 10. And I'm trying to figure out how I want to write it. We're going to say divide by 2. Divide by 2. It's also this, 1/2 x divided by 2. And maybe that's how I should do it. So divided by 2 over 1. So instead of dividing fractions, we're going to multiply by this reciprocal. So that 1/2 x becomes, instead of divide by 2, we do times 1/2 x, 1/2. So we would have 1/4. 1/2 times 1/2 is 1/4 x equals, we have the 10 divided by 2 is 5. So 1/4 x equals 5. And that makes sense. 1/4 is half of the half. 5 is half of 10. All right, so what if we did, we have 1/2 x equals 10. So what if we had 1/2 x divided by 4 equals 10 divided by 4. So 1/2 x times, instead of divided by 4 over 1, we do times 1 over 4. So on this side we get 1 over 8. And 10 divided by 4. Okay, how many 4s can you get out of 10? You can get 2 wholes. That'd be 8. And then you would have 2 out of the 4 left, so it would be 2 and 2 fours, or 2 and 1/2. Okay, so when we do that, we would have have 1/8 x equals 2.5. I'll do 2.5, and that makes sense. An eighth is half of the fourth, and 2.5 is half of 5. And then let's see if we can do one more. So 1/2 x equals 10. So 1/2 x divided by, well, let's do like maybe 8 this time, equals 10 divided by 8. So remember, that's 8 over 1. So we have 1/2 x times the reciprocal equals, I'm just going to write this like this, 10 divided by 8. 1 times 1 is 1. 2 times 8 is 16. So 1/16 x equals 10/8 is 1 whole, and then 2 out of 8 left. So that's 1 1/4, which if we did that as a decimal, 1.25. Okay, and so it's 1/16 x and 1.25. And 1/16 is half of the eighth. Half of 2.5 is 1.5. Okay, so then it says, how do you know that all the equations on each double number line are equivalent? So we can just say, when the numbers line up, I know each pair represents an equivalent ratio. Each has the same conversion rate. Okay. And we'll see you in the next video. I think, let me make sure 410's not part of this. Nope, that is a talk the talk. Maybe we'll just continue that right here. Maybe we'll just finish that up on this video. Let's try to do that. Consider each equation shown and identify which are equivalent to x equals 3. State the property of equality used to create each equivalent equation. Okay. So we need to state if they're equivalent to x equals 3. Okay, so we have x plus 3 equals 3 plus 3. So we're looking for x equals 3. So here's an x, and here's the 3. The thing that's remaining, these are both adding a 3 to it. So this is the addition property of equality. And it adds 3 to both sides. So this one is a yes. X minus 4 equals 1. Well, if we needed to get it to be just the x, we would have to add 1 to make it just x. But if we're adding 1 here, we'd have to add 1 here. We would get x equals 5. So that is a no, not equivalent. X minus 2 equals 1. So if we wanted it to be just x, we'd have to add 2 to this side and add 2 to this side, which then, I mean, we're going to do this, so that goes away. So we would have x equals 3. So this one is a yes. And this is using the subtraction property of equality. Okay, 10x equals 13. So let's see, we would have to divide by 10 if we're going to have just the x, and you'd have to divide by 10 here. Well, that equals 13/10, which is not 3, so that one is a no. X plus 8 equals 11. Okay, so if we had x equals 3 and we added this 8 to both sides, if that's the part we added, just like it was over here, we're adding the same thing. So adding 8 to 3 and adding 8 to x. So this is a yes, and it's the addition property of equality. Okay, so if we had x equals 3, how would we go to the 5x equals 15? Would we multiply both by 5? Yes, that works. So multiplication, property of equality. So multiply both sides by 5. This one is add 8 to both sides. Sorry, I didn't change pen color there. I know it makes it easier when I do. Okay, so x divided by 1 equals 2. So this just doesn't even make sense. So this cannot be. I'm going to say right away this is a no. Because if I was going to get 3 here, then I would have to be adding 1 to it. But adding 1 here, they took the x and they divided 1, so I would have to, if I started with x equals 3 and I divided by 1, dividing by 1 here doesn't turn it to a 2. So that one's a no. And then x divided by 5 equals 3 divided by 5. Well, that starts as x equals 3, divide by 5, divide by 5. So yes. And that's the division property of equality. Okay, and that is it for this lesson.